All right.
Rolling.
Yeah, so keep doing that. Keep talking properly.
Rolling.
No, talk as if you're actually talking to me.
Oh, okay. So, like, what do you want me to say?
Just keep talking.
Yeah, right.
Improvise.
Is that good?
Yes, keep going.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's not feeding back as much now.
Sweet.
I just wanted to very quickly mention, something that you said, Pietro, that I thought was really important to recognise as much because of how it affects you. Sounds like I'm feeding back as well. Is that you said that teachers are always stressed, or you personally, because you care, and I think that is you've touched on something that I was being a bit unsympathetic about with the medical workforce as well, because obviously it's the same for them, and it's the same for emergency responders. You're all frontline workers, and your roles are very important because you're working with vulnerable people, and so it sounds similar to what I was maybe in an unkind way articulating about the medical profession, which is that you feel a responsibility to be the support for these vulnerable people, and you care very much about being that, but that then makes it incredibly stressful because if you don't think you're doing your job properly, you worry you're letting someone down, and it likely makes it harder for people in your profession to stop and say, I need help, because who helps the helpers? Like if you're taken out, then what's going to happen? And the other thing, and I just briefly wanted to mention, because it was really interesting what you said about the segregation of children, as you said, sort of quarantining. There's one really interesting in practice example, and this was the example I was thinking of that I can point to. I'm going to have to turn that down because it's driving me crazy.
Yeah,
can't you hear that? Like it's terrible. I don't know what I've done differently. But yeah, I've started teaching customers how to do sound engineering. So then when we have these events, someone else can go and fill with the desk. Anyway, what I was going to say is that the one example I know of that's a firm example of people doing things differently that can help is the local school down the road here that all three of my children have gone to. They use flexible learning spaces, and they use project-based teaching or project-based learning. And I was aware of that kind of concept because when I was working for a university that I won't say which one, but anyway, I was working for a big university, and the guy that I was working with is a real leader in transformative ideas particularly around education and around getting research outcomes into the workforce and research outcomes into the educational practice. And he had a real bee in his bonnet the whole time we worked together about eliminating this sort of thing that I was complaining about before, about one person talking to everyone else and everyone else listening, that even teaching, he said, or education should not be didactic, it should be a conversation because everyone learns better that way.
Yep.
And the person who's supposedly the teacher learns as well, even about their own practice. And so we were trying to find new ways of designing buildings and new ways of presenting classes and things like that. And it was really hard to get even people within the uni to agree to try it. And then when my kids started at this school, they're already doing it. They're doing these things that the university was going, this will be an ideal when we can do it. And so the two aspects of that, one is that it's happening in practice. The other is that I know that there were students at the University of Wollongong who were conducting research on that. So particularly that you live down that way, you might even be able to find academics who can now tell you what outcomes they've observed from it. But the one thing I was told by the principal there when we went to tour the school, and she said, oh, here's one of our classrooms, and there were like 2 or 3 desks, and the rest of the classroom was beanbags and stuff like that. And she said, yeah, if a student wants to use a desk, they can. If they want to take their shoes off, they can, whatever. As long as they're listening, that's fine. And I asked her how they find that, because I was working on this project that was all about that sort of thing. And back to what Naomi said about industrialisation as well, about colonisation, that I thought was really interesting, is that teacher said to me they'd only been doing it for 2 years, and she said a lot of the teachers themselves were really reluctant and wary of this idea of letting the kids just flake out, basically. But she said to me, she said, this whole idea of making all the kids sit in rows, all facing the same direction, all staring you in the eyes like this, she said that is not the traditional way of teaching. She said that's only been around since the early 19th century, or not even the early 19th century, and it's a product of industrialisation. She said it is about giving them a minimum education so that they can participate in the workforce, and it's 100%. Also culturally structured to make them feel all the same, wear a uniform, all sit in the same desk every day, all that sort of thing, so that they're more acclimatised to then going and working in a factory, which is what most of them are going to do. And she said there's no good reason for it. And like one of the things I did work with a lot was academics in physical disability, and the former dean of health sciences used to say to me all the time, sitting is the new smoking. Like being sedentary for more than 15 minutes is so bad for your health that she'd be running, big high-level meetings and just going, that's 15 minutes, everybody stand up and walk around and sit down again. We don't do half-hour or hour or 2 hour long meetings. And yet we make our children do that every day. And when I asked her, what it was like for them now, she said actually been really interesting, because she said before, when it was all everyone sit in a row, they would have, she said they spent at least 60, maybe she said like 70% of their time normally would be spent telling kids to sit still, stop fidgeting, pay attention, and then they'd get to teach. She said as soon as we just said, make yourself comfortable, that was it. All that time now is used teaching. Because if a kid doesn't want to sit like a robot, they can lie on the floor, like as long as they're listening and they're not annoying others.
Yeah, they're doing this sort of thing, again, in the UK, they're trialling neurodivergent friendly spaces and inclusive spaces. So sometimes it's the simplest of ideas, but it changes the entire environment, right? So it's just a room that students can go to when they're stressing out or when they're having an episode or a meltdown or whatever it might be. And they don't have to be diagnosed, right? This is any student. And it's just a space you can go and chill. But that might seem like a really sort of basic idea, but it's important for a child during a day we don't really look at how much stress we inflict on young people in this society. It's just ridiculous. And it's all, programmed, as you said, and it's programmed with a certain agenda.
And yet just treating everyone the same, but that thing about being the same being, make yourself comfortable however works for you. Solved so many problems for these people.
So the implication of having a neurodivergent or neurodiverse brain, a brain that operates differently and is capable of producing perhaps an idea that is not conventional, is troubling to a society that is obsessed with conformism and is obsessed with homogenization and doesn't really want to go beyond certain boundaries, right? So there's a conflict of interest, and there's a conflict of interest ultimately if that society is going to extend that to the point where, well, that's all that matters, is that society continues regardless of how bad things are. Well, that's going to produce chaos.
I participated in an online conversation on Facebook, maybe just over a year ago, maybe more, and it was a Facebook group that was dedicated to teachers who were concerned for addressing their student behaviour, particularly focusing on, I guess, antisocial behaviour. Okay, and one of the points that I put to the group to consider was this, and you just rekindled a memory, right? And so this was the point I made to them. I said, how do we reconcile, right, a society where our expectations of the students that we teach is greater than the politicians who make the decisions in our society? Some of whom, those politicians, are war criminals.
We hold kids to higher standards than we hold people who are in charge of society. 100%. Why is that? It's ridiculous.
That's exactly right. That's exactly how it is. Right. We make our students accountable when politicians get away literally with murder.
Yeah, that's right. We want them to behave. Look around you, who's behaving themselves.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, what I wanted to say as well, having finished writing this, I had no intention of writing a sequel. Absolutely none. I thought, this has drained me. Not just the writing process, but what I went through so I'm not receiving royalties for this. I had a conflict with the publisher, Priors Press, and apparently I have no legal grounds to take any action because they're based in Utah. And so I spoke to a lawyer here and he said they've probably covered themselves that way and the contract that you signed. And then he looked at the amount because they basically, sorry to dive.
No, go ahead. Yeah. I think we all wanted to hear this.
Yeah, but anyway. So, where was I?
You're saying they're based in Utah, they ripped you off.
Yeah, so I was still writing this and looking for a publisher, and they came to me. I didn't go to them. They sort of headhunted me, and so now we've kind of worked out it was not a scam. They are a legitimate publisher, but they do this and they do get away with it, and they probably do target foreign writers and maybe writers like me who are first time and not so experienced in the industry. Anyhow, I got ripped off to the tune of $3-4 grand. I'm not saying there shouldn't have been publishing costs, but the lawyer I spoke to said that's extremely high amount of them to take, and then to deny me royalties based on conflicts that we had during the production process. They just cut off communications, and I couldn't even call them, email them, nothing. They blocked me, right? And I can't go to their offices. So this is, and so I'm not receiving royalties. Look, it's an experience, everything is, and you learn. And if I'm going with a local publisher this time, that's the first thing. But I had no intention of writing a sequel, and that's now completely changed. I saw a therapist recently, who I've since cut off. We'll get to that later. But she had this brilliant idea, because I was struggling to get this started, having decided I'm going to write a sequel because more needs to be said, this story needs to extend, right? I think but then I thought, how do I go about this? I'm so flustered. And I was talking to the therapist just about planning my day, not even the writing. And she said, it might help to have like a whiteboard. So it's so handy, you can just jot down. And I thought, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I got right, it's so simple. But I got a standing one, and now I'm just basically writing the novel on the whiteboard, like jotting down whatever comes in here and then transferring it there. Sometimes it is the simplest of things. So that's just an example of
flexible learning space.
Yes, flexible learning space. You can change a student's life. Don't think too big sometimes. You're in a classroom and you can only do so much in that space. But it's worth trying. But whatever works, basically.
Yeah.
It's all trial and error, isn't it? Because again, we're all different. Every student's going to respond differently. Not every autistic child is going to respond in the same way to the same stimuli. And so, as the research continues, and we don't know if we're really going to get there, because
we'll get somewhere.
We'll get somewhere.
Especially if we don't wait for someone else to fix the situation.
Well, that's right, and it's important that we're talking about it. And I'm glad people are here tonight who have shared their experiences. And there are some who are here who haven't shared, that I know have similar experiences. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I know that there's people who would like to be here but didn't feel capable of being here tonight necessarily, but probably will another time.
Yeah, and which is good that we're going to have video at some point put up so everyone can sort of reflect on it.
And I would just encourage everyone, again, like by all means, before we stop the formalities tonight, anyone who wants to speak either on camera or not, really love to hear what you've got to say, but also at any time from now on, if you have an idea for any aspect, big or small, like for example, we didn't have a microphone set up last time for the audience to use. It was once we started having the conversation that we went, oh shit, no one's going to hear that on the recording.
We almost didn't have video either.
That's right. It was only because a friend of yours did it.
Yeah. But this time.
And you probably all noticed I've been extremely distracted by the sound because I can't switch off the part of me that's being the sound engineer. So I meant to apologise to each of you when I've stood up and walked away while you're speaking. It's because I'm listening closely and I can't tolerate those noises. So next time I'll make sure I've got somebody else to do the sound for me, so that that's not an issue. Or I won't be up here, and probably that's the better thing. I'll do the sound and nothing else. But you know, it might be the whole format. It might be that we don't have a conversation in person. Maybe we do something totally virtually. Maybe we do something that's actually a physical action more than a sit and talk.
Yeah,
Maybe,
we could do group activities. We could.
Or a protest or whatever. You know, like, no, but I just mean it could be anything. It could be direct action. Sorry, Naomi. Yeah, that'd be great. Did you want to come up here or?
I don't Maybe I might move.
Yeah, just careful. It can't be moved from the top. You've got to move it from the bottom. It was actually strategically placed there so people don't trip on that weird step. That's why I did that.
Nice. The weird step.
Yeah, thank you. I think, on that note of, this world-making practice and how overwhelming it can be to realize, like, so many people are experiencing injustice, how might we change the world? And it's so overwhelming, especially for a neurodivergent brain that, in medical terms, has difficulties with central coherence. So that basically means having a tendency towards details as opposed to the big picture, struggling to process the big picture. How am I meant to process changing the world? And so I think of it more as for example, in the classroom and having those flexible solutions that you mentioned, it's a space-making practice in which neurodivergent people can sensorially experience and embody the conditions they need to be their whole self. And then once they experience that, then we can go into any space and be like, well, this is what I need. This is what you have to do, and I deserve more and I deserve better. And so that experience is an advocacy tool that we can take wherever we go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we do have to find a way, I think, to connect with teachers.
Well, Pietro's here tonight. Yeah?
Absolutely.
And he knows,
so we've started that process.
I've told him about an example. I've told him about the university near him where
I think teachers should be armed with knowledge of neurodiversity as much as possible.
Everyone.
Everyone. Absolutely.
And also, the thing I was trying to highlight with that example, and that I think what you were saying, Naomi, that really struck me again is that part of the point there is that it's just how they treat everyone. Yeah. It's not, if we have a neurodivergent person, we will do this. It's no, for everyone, we just say, make yourself comfortable, including if you want a desk, you've got one. And that presumption, it's like, decades ago, they realised that for people with physical disabilities that impair their mobility or make them differently mobile, that instead of going, we've got disabled access, as they always called it, it's like, no, any new building has universal access. Yeah. You don't presume you're going to have a percentage of people who move differently. You just go, it doesn't matter how you move around, we will make it so that you can get into this building.
That's right. And so when you talk about changing the world, yes, we can make incremental changes, absolutely, and we should, and we shouldn't ever be discouraged from doing that. It's just a matter of keeping a sense of the big picture, not letting it overwhelm you. And a big part of that is this. Is talking about it and connecting with other people who see things, more or less the same way, or are going through similar experiences. That's how we begin to change things. So.
And your point about space making, I think, is great because, I said earlier, I kind of created this space, or the earlier version of this space, purely as a therapeutic thing for me before I even knew I had ADHD, but I was completely overwhelmed and had to leave the workforce and everything. Wasn't trying to make money. And so many people started coming in saying, this feels like a sanctuary away from the rest of the world. Yeah. And that's why I said, a bit flippantly, to me it seems like a magnet for people with ADHD because I've met so many other people who are recently diagnosed. But even the fact that I no longer have dining tables, basically, but you can still get food and coffee, it means that for people who are more sensitive, and I don't mean oversensitive, but are more attuned, more instinctive as well about there likely being expectations on you from society and things like that, to walk into a business where it's a bit disordered, quite comfortable, but there's no obvious expectation as to what you are supposed to do, you're much more likely to feel like you can come in and sit down here and no one's going to come over and go, are you buying a coffee or are you leaving? You know, like, whereas most cafes, because they're trying to make money through food more than anything else, they can't afford to do that. They have to try and just churn people through. Whereas, you know, I've also got a very diverse business model to try and compensate for that. But I think that it's a really important point, because we can also, as you said, then take that. It's like getting a language. It's like going, oh, there's now a word for this, or there's an example for these kind of spaces. I can go anywhere and say, you know, if you just did this, this would suddenly be a much more viable space for everyone.
These are changing times. It's hard to see sometimes.
No, it's just King Street.
Fuck.
Yeah, I am pretty over the traffic here. Like, it was
Sorry, I just
entertaining
got to
for a while.
recover from that.
No, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, they are.
Was that someone yelling from across the
It
street?
was right
No,
there.
he was right out the front. He did it in response to what I was saying. Like, in response to saying, make a space for everyone.
Oh, is that what it is?
Well, something like that. I don't think he was trying to hurt people. I think he just thought he was being funny. But it's a reaction against the idea that there might be something other than his world experience that needs to be prioritised.
Okay.
I mean, I do point the speakers at the street, which is against the terms of my lease.
Well, we live in, eh? Anyway, where were we? It's changing times, and I think especially artists, people like us, are looking for answers and looking for new ways of doing things, even in small spaces. So don't ever feel overwhelmed or disheartened.
And so are businesses.
Yeah.
And whole economies
and don't
are looking
think
for new
things
ways.
aren't changing, because they're not going to automatically change. You know, it's a struggle. Everything's a struggle, and the beginning of that is communicating properly. And
Absolutely.
if we're struggling to do that at the very base level, well, that needs to be addressed.
And people like yourself who have direct experience, either from your own experience or from people you care about or whatever, and who are articulate and who can identify meaningful things to highlight, like, you're extremely valuable to all of us, you know, like, you should remember that, like, because as I'm sure you know, there are other people with conditions like the ones we've been talking about who some can't even speak in public at all, you know, and so I don't want to make you feel responsible for everyone else, but I'm just saying
But this is one
you
of
have
the,
something to give.
This is
which
one of the
great.
messages of the novel, is that there's no such thing as voiceless people.
No.
They're denied a voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speak up. If you can.
So, yeah, no worries, Pietro.
see you,
And I was
mate.
going to say, I
I'll talk
think
to you soon.
everyone's very welcome to stick around.
Thank you, Pietro.
If anyone would like to say anything more that will be included on the recording, I'm going to walk away now, mate, and just fiddle with the sound desk. But then feel free to just stick around anyway and mingle and chat. I'm sure we've all got lots of things that we'd like to talk about. And please do, just either now or in the future, get in touch with me and let me know any ideas you have. It might be for an event you want to do, or like I say, something you think I could have done better today or differently that would help more people, or whatever.
Michael and I would like to kind of continue this sort of extend.
And there are a lot of people who
we do welcome
come
input
here.
and contributions.
And I'd like to step away. You know, like, I'm quite happy to just make drinks and do the sound if other people have things that they're happy to do.
You want me to
use
fly
the space.
solo? I don't know if I can.
No, well,
I think I need you.
You can do
I need a
photography
wingman
for a bit. No, I'm saying get other people up talking.
Oh, yeah.
Or not talking, doing other shit. I don't know.
Whatever.
There's all sorts of things.
Why not?
Hey, miming. Well,
The possibilities are endless.
I'll give you a great example. There's a kid in a country town, I can't remember the name of the town now, but a small country town in New South Wales where they, a young child, I can't remember if he was born blind. I don't think he was, because it was once he was already, you know, known to the community that they realised he was blind. And so the local council got together, the local community, and decided to braille bomb the town. So every street intersection, every shop has got a braille sign on it telling him where he is.
Oh, lovely.
Why haven't we done that here? Like, how fucking hard would it be to do that?
There's
you know?
just so much.
There's but endless things
To
like that we
begin
can do.
doing it, you have to get to a certain point. They're not going to do it for us.
No, but the local business community would do it.
Absolutely.
And so would the council on this side of the road. Don't know about that one.
Yeah. But not
They
people who
would,
make
now that I've said
legislation.
that.
Generally, they're not going to do anything for us. So It is.
No, you've got to speak up.
You've got to speak up, and it's about all of us, you know.
Hi guys.
Hey, David.
Hi, nice to see you.
So, yeah, you too. All right, so if no one is going to get up and talk while the tape is rolling, so to speak, I will turn the microphones off and put some background music on, but please stay if you feel like it. I'm not closing
Why don't we have
anytime
a
soon.
jam?
Yeah, if anyone wants to, that's fine by me. Go ahead.
Well, everyone wants to see you play guitar. They were telling me.
Yeah. Look, I'm very happy to play music, but I'm also conscious that I've been hogging the microphone.
That's okay. Hug the guitar.
All right, I'll play you a song. Sure. Feel free to walk out while I'm playing if you want to. Just trying to find a plectrum. Look, most of my songs are really mournful and like, fuck.
The autism plectrum. You like that?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't quite.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotta cope with all sorts.
Look.
It's a convoy.
I can play you a song, but I can't guarantee it'll be happy.
I have a head, but I have 20 here, and I don't know.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I'll sign up for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, that was great. See you at the next one.
Thank you.
I'll bring some popcorn
Oh,
too.
so he's gonna go in the
And
newsletter.
there will be something. There will be a next one way or
I
another.
was talking to you, I realised they'd sold out of August copies, so yeah, I'll bring some down tomorrow. Michael, thank you very much yet again.
Yeah, thank you. And we will be doing the poetry discussion tomorrow, Arvo, as well. Yeah, I should tell people, shouldn't I?
Excellent, I'll see you soon. See you later.
Thanks. It's $20. You can. Oh, yep. Cash. Thank you. Would you like a receipt for that?
No, that's okay.
Sure. Thanks very much, Nan. And thanks for, like I say, I really appreciate what you contributed.
I'm really, active in the neurodivergent / disabled space.
Yeah.
Traumatic stress space. And,
Yeah. Well, like I said,